cat in the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
Do you ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right, welcome into a very solemn edition of The View from C-Deck, our last regular season review of a game because we effing blew it in the shoe with everything pointing towards a Buckeye victory at home. Revenge factor from last year. Blake Corum's out of the game. It's sunny. It's 56. There's no wind. There's not a cloud in the sky. And Ohio State just gets stomped in the second half. Again, almost an exact replay of last year's game. Very competitive first half. Lots of scoring. And then the second half, I guess not exactly the same. They didn't just run it down our throats except for one possession. Break off a couple big runs, though, make the scoreless worse than it is. But it is what it is. The score is the score in the game. And we get destroyed. Jason was in the shoe Saturday. I have a lot to say about this game, but I'm going to let him go first since he was actually there. How did it feel? Take me quarter by quarter, not quarter by quarter, but just sort of beginning to end, how the electricity went from electric to maybe electric towards Ryan Day at the end.
Whew. Lot to pack in, but yeah, that first touchdown going right down the field kind of got the juices flowing, and then the defense was kind of coming up clutch there a little bit. It was rocking up. The apex or the peak of the performance of our good half was definitely those two back-to-back the false starts where I couldn't hear myself think. It was loud in there, and after that it all went downhill. Just them getting those two long touchdown basically plays to go into halftime, but we had some momentum there when Harbaugh decided to go for it, and then we kind of got some points out of that. And people kind of, even the Michigan fans that were kind of around us were like, here's Harbaugh trying to blow another game for us. And we had a lot of good energy going into the half where we kind of were feeling good about it because my dad thought we dominated. I said I wouldn't have felt like we dominated, but we controlled the first half because I felt like we were stopping the run. Other than the big plays at the end there, I just felt like when we were established the run game phenomenally. I just thought we were in control. Second half happened. Third quarter was a little bit more anxious because we came out flat and they came out and just drove right down the field. And that's when things started to kind of get a little worrisome when we couldn't really get a stop. And then fourth quarter, really, when it was getting out of hand, I was laughing. It was more hysteria. Like I was just like, this is just funny at this point at how bad this is going. And I had screamed out Cooper 2.0 to 15 other people looking at me and then being like, yeah, he's right. And then people were just like, I think I had like 3 or 4 people say like fire Day. That was the heat of the moment. We'll get into that here in a little bit, but yeah, that's how the evolution of it went.
Did you tell them that we've been calling him Cooper on this show for weeks now?
No, I should have been handing out cards with the
should have
V from C-Deck.
Hey, we said this weeks ago, especially just Matt. He's like, he lived through Cooper and I lived through Cooper. Let me tell you, fans who don't remember John Cooper or weren't alive or whatever, that was a Cooper game, like to a T. You have everything lined up for you to go on and do huge things, and you just shit down your pants. You can't make adjustments when things aren't going right. But it's crazy because you're right. Let's start back in the first half. And I'm very angry about this game, but I can't yell because I got a sleeping baby in this house. But even looking through I'm looking through the play-by-play and the possessions. They only had their opening possession for Michigan. Obviously, we go down, score, look great in our first possession. Michigan comes down. They run a pretty nice drive, convert a couple of third and longs. I said last week, I was like, if we win the first downs and we win the first quarter, we're going to win this game. And we won the first downs in the first half. So did you know they didn't, besides that first drive, they didn't have a series. They went more than 3 plays. The rest of the half, they had 4 3-and-outs. They had 2 long touchdowns on a 1-play series and a 3-play series. It's insane. We forced 4 3-and-outs in the first half. So your feeling of us dominating is actually right. Because we were dominating besides the big plays we gave up.
That doesn't even click until now. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So they did dominate on defense. I thought the game plan was the appropriate one on defense. Now Knowles was catching a lot of flack, and rightfully so, because it just didn't. He didn't recognize how bad the secondary was, and I'm going to give you credit on this because you've been hammering it all year, big time.
Yeah.
I had a little more faith than you did. I didn't think they were good, but I didn't think they were get smoked by 15 yards consistently bad,
Yes.
which is what happened in this game. And all three scoring drives were a direct result of breakdown. Like the first one, they hit their big 3rd and 8 play that they hit was Burke losing his receiver as the play started to break down. McCarthy, the one thing he did do well, I think he's being very overrated in this game. The one thing he did do well, though, was break the pocket and then make our DBs have to stick to their guys longer, which they were completely incapable of doing. So he hits that deep ball on a terrible throw. It's an arm punt. The guy has to stand there and catch it because he didn't want to overthrow him, but he has to stand there and catch it, or they score a touchdown on that play too. And then obviously the 2 long pass plays, the one we go on all out blitz, he hits the quick out, which is like his best throw, and Cam Brown does what he did all year, and like against the exact same play that happened against Penn State, exact same play, missed the tackle by Cam Brown, off to the races, see you later. And
Also against Arkansas State, and
Yes,
there was
Arkansas State.
one in Toledo. There was one in Toledo as well. And
that
yes,
it may not have been him against Penn State now that I think about it, but it doesn't matter.
yeah,
But overall, the game plan is stuff the run, make them beat us over the top. McCarthy does it a few times on throws that you or I could have made. I mean, easily. And the throw on the post and the second long touchdown was an easy throw. But our offense is responding. CJ's driving them down the field pretty consistently. We're making plays. We're having good touch. Like the long ball to Harrison is a beautiful throw and catch.
oh yeah,
I mean, good coverage too. They give Michigan. I'm gonna give Michigan some credit. Their DBs played really well. They were on our guys all day. But we're up 20-17 at halftime. You're feeling okay about it because you only gave up the big plays, but you're also thinking we should be up 17.
yes,
We should have been
yeah,
up.
exactly. We left some points on the board too.
We leave huge points on the board. Day's playing more conservatively than he normally would, or that you normally see, which is a sign of Cooper. Is that not that he played? Went from aggressive. He wasn't the most aggressive coach in the world. Not that he went aggressive. It's that he changed the way he coached in the big game. In the game, I remember Demetrius, is it Demetrius Stanley or Stanley Jackson? The Stanley part's got me confused. I think it was Demetrius Stanley, though, who said about Cooper when talking about his struggles. He played for them in the 90s. That I think it was Stanley Jackson. It was definitely Stanley Jackson. Now that I think it was Stanley Jackson. He says Cooper would change everything about practice that week. Everything would change. The way they talked, the way they address things. It would be like you could tell he was pressing, and you could tell that it was different, and that just threw everybody off. When you're not being yourself, people know, and then they don't want to follow that, and they lose faith. They don't do things properly, and that's what it looked like. Starting with some of his decisions on whether or not to go for it. He goes for it on the 1-4 down and doesn't get it on like a pass to the wrong player. And it was funny because he came out in that I formation, a traditional I twins week. We haven't shown that all year because, of course, we'll talk about a couple of days ideas I think that were to be just for the game. There was the play action tight end seam that Stover just lets bounce off his hands. Because Stover had a terrible game, as did many Buckeyes.
It was tough. That was the seam route. It only hit really one of his hands.
It was it too. It was rough.
Yeah,
Not an easy catch. But you're thinking we should be up at halftime more than the 3. We should be up at least 10. And if I'm up 10, I'm feeling pretty good, to be honest with you. I said that when we got the ball and had a chance to take a 10-point lead near the end of the half before Harbaugh did his weird crap, and we went 3 and out instead. But anyway, second quarter starts. We give up another big play drive, another 45-yard touchdown pass on a tight end wheel route. He gets behind the defense. The only good throw of these throws that McCarthy made on the deep balls, on the big plays, that was a good throw. Hits him right in stride, on the money, touchdown. We're struggling bad at this point. We have a not so good series, but we force a 3 and out after that. Then we go 3 and out. Then they put together their 8-minute drive where we switch our defense up basically to do what we were not wanting to do, which is let them run more. They run it down our throats. They end the drive on a pathetic effort from Ronnie Hickman. McCarthy probably scores anyway because there's a lineman coming behind him to push him in if Hickman stands him up, and that may be why Hickman didn't go for it because he sees this lineman coming also. But he sat there at the goal line, feet on the line, doesn't attack. Easy touchdown for McCarthy. They do exactly what they did in the second half all game last year, which is just drive it down in chunks on us, little plays. So then we have a 3-and-out, but they miss a 57-yard field goal, which was a stupid attempt by Harbaugh, especially the way their defense is playing at that point. But we go down, and this is where this is not where the 3-and-out was where we had the 1st and 35. Run a ridiculous toss. I don't know what we're doing. Like a ridiculous toss for 1st and 35, a toss play that hasn't worked all year with a backup running, like the running back. So we get behind the chains, huge, obviously. Hit 2 big chunk plays, though. Have a 4th and 6 with momentum. Like, if we run up the line and run a play, I think we convert it. I really do. Stroud even wants to. Day says, no, we're punting. Ends up working out because of the missed field goal and all that. But then we get down to the field goal on field goal attempt where we have a 4th and 3. Sorry, it wasn't 4th and goal. We could have got a first down still. And if we kick the field goal instead of going for it, a lot of people hate that too. Now, mathematically, it kind of makes sense to do something like that near the end of the game to keep yourself within the score because you need the field goal at some point. But not the way our defense is playing. And also, again, not what he's done all year. He's been aggressive as fuck all year. He goes for 4th downs on his own side of the field against Maryland last week, like twice.
Yeah.
This week he won't do it. You can't do that crap. Well, first play, game's over. Donovan Edwards takes it 75 yards to the house. Yeah. We throw a pick the next possession. He takes it to the house again on like an 80-yard run because we're playing just an all-out stop.
He gave up, yeah.
And then we throw another pick at the end of the game, but it's just got out of hand. But it's just funny to see how the collapse worked, how it happened. It's just mind-boggling that we let them punk us mentally, I think, more than anything. The way we saw Hickman kind of quit, the way we saw Day shell up. He turtled up and didn't want to play aggressive towards the end of the game. Now, have you seen the stuff about the fake punt today?
Yes. That was actually supposed to be a throw, but the snapper missed
No,
it.
it was a run. It was a sweep left that was going to work. I mean, off tackle left that was going to work. Totally would have worked. Snapper doesn't snap it. They even they did that on purpose. So on that play that everybody hated Day for not going for it on the 4th down on the punt, they did the pump snap, one trying to get the penalty on Michigan, I think. So if that works, then it's 4th and 1, obviously go for it. But also to give themselves even more of a, I guess, mental cushion that Michigan won't be thinking that a fake's coming after we get that penalty.
Gotcha. We were doing that to get more space for the punt so we wouldn't get a touchback, basically.
It's not a fake. A lot of people are thinking this, and I think they're right. It's either get them to jump and we don't get called for it, or it brings down their guard. Because
that's what I'm saying. It brought down my guard because I'm like, okay, 4th and 8. I thought we did it to get more space to kick, to give your punter more room to kick it so he doesn't get like if you take a delay game, you move him back. Kind of like the same thing. I was like, okay, fine. And then that would have done the same thing and lowered everybody's guards down.
Right. So anyway, that's the play though. If you see it, because I remember thinking this thing's about to get blocked the way they came.
Oh yeah.
That's because we were all blocked left, student body left on a thing. You see Mitch Rossi try to catch the snap. He misses it and he's going like this. If you can see me right now, he's going like this, giving the Bosa what's happening because I'm supposed to have the ball right now, and it would have been up to the punt returner to stop him, and maybe he does because Rossi's not like he's a juker or anything like that, but we're probably down inside the 20, and who knows if we score a touchdown or anything like that, but it's an example of every level of this team choked at some point during this game. Defense choked, offense choked, special teams choked in the biggest moments. And when you're not executing at all 3 levels, that's on the head coach. So my anger is mostly pointed at Ryan Day for a lot of reasons. But so how did you feel about Day after the game?
I mean, like my heat of the moment thing was like a lot of people. I was like, 2 years in a row, I wouldn't be upset if we fired him. Next day, kind of thinking about it, you can't do that.
Right.
It's stupid to do that. It's just a knee-jerk reaction. You have to look at a lot of the things of why maybe it's been going this way, and maybe it's talent, maybe it's scheme, new defensive coordinator. There's a lot of things going on, and going 11-1 isn't too bad. However, where I'm drawing the line is it's our rival. If this is like the Urban years where we lose maybe a game to Purdue or Iowa on the road, like a fluke loss, I'm fine with that. And we still have a chance for the playoff. I get it. It's just how it's happening. If we lose a close game to Michigan, I'm not okay with that. But at the same time, whatever. It happens. You lose to a better team sometimes. You just tip your hat to them. But to get run out of your own building and to kind of, and I've said this, I've said about the secondary being bad all year. How I've said about Day's play calling. The last 3 games, I mean, Northwestern, Maryland, and now this, he has been abysmal at play calling. The offense is lacking the juice. Bring the juice. It's lacking the juice. And I point to one person other than Ryan Day. CJ Stroud had a good game. I think his throws were on point. I'm not blaming the loss on him, but it's his attitude. It's his energy. It's the way he attacks the field and the way he's doing his mannerisms on the field. It's all screaming to me. He's not a competitor. He doesn't have the it factor that Justin Fields had, the killer mentality, the leadership that JT Barrett had. And I get it. Not every quarterback's going to have that. But if you're going to have a quarterback, then he's expected to do big things, and he's not a runner, and he's going to want to go to the NFL and be a pocket passer. He's got to have some of these mentalities, these Joe Burrow, these Aaron Rodgers, killer, just stepping up at the big moment. He hasn't done that. The Rose Bowl, you want to give him credit for the Rose Bowl? I give that more to Jackson Smith and Jigba. All the yards after catch, he was making plays. Yes, he made some great throws, but he has not stepped up at the big games. And you can go back to the Oregon game and he doesn't show up. He's just like he makes one bad drive, or he doesn't go for it on 4th down. He throws his hands up, and it's like he gives in. He gives in, and I'm happy that we're moving. Hopefully, he said he's not playing in the bowl game. We need that because we need to find out who our quarterback is next year. If we make the playoff, fine, I'm whatever. But I'm happy to move on from the C.J. Stroud era and to see who we got next year, because I'm not a big C.J. Stroud fan, and I know you know that I've said that for a while.
Yeah. I'll move on to Stroud in a second because I have similar feelings, but with Day, here's what's interesting too. Our weaknesses are what killed it. Like the weaknesses we had all year are what killed us in this game. The inability to like consistently move the ball on offense, get in a rhythm, the lack of the DBs, struggles and man-to-man coverage, and that's exactly what beat us. And then some of the other things, our special teams aren't great all the time, so we can't gain any advantages that way. What did Michigan do? What did we make them do? We made them use their weakness, and they beat us with it. And it wasn't pretty, but they did it because they knew they had to do it. That's what we were giving them. His play calling is always the weakness. Is he is not patient, and he gets stubborn. He gets caught into some idea that he has that he wants to do. Yes. And he will not change it, and he will not take what's there. And it's to the point everybody knows it. I know how I defend us. I'm shelling up I said it's like going into the freaking Iowa game 6 weeks ago that you shell up against us. They were the perfect team because that's what they do. And then you just react to what we're doing and make us stay patient, and we can't do it. CJ, when he does check down, he checks down twice in that game. What happened both times?
It's either an incomplete pass or the running back gets hit behind the line of scrimmage. You talked about that?
Destroyed because he waits too long to do it.
Yes.
He waits too long to do it, and then the guys can float up because they know there's nobody behind him anymore. They made their initial drop, and then they can play up because nobody's there anymore. And they destroy Cade Stover once, and they destroy Chip Trayanum another time.
What happened? We were running the ball. We were averaging like 5 yards a carry after the first half. In the third quarter, we just stopped running the ball. And obviously, we can't do it in the fourth quarter because we're down, we're trailing, we're making up, and you can't run. I get that. But in the third quarter, the perfect way to answer their long drive and to give our defense some rest after they just got a 6-minute drive put down their throat, run the ball and take some time off. We were only down by 4 points. You can run the ball. Instead, we go out there and get pass happy. That was frustrating all year long. I've said this.
First possession, we ran the ball 4 times and threw it once in the second half.
Whatever. I just felt like we didn't run the ball. Something changed. Anyways, but what he did with the halfback toss on 1st and 35.
Oh, yeah.
We have not established the edge. Going back to, all year long, our wide receivers can't block. Cade Stover can't block on the edge. We cannot run the ball or pass the ball outside to these quick screen passes. So why are we doing it? Our thing is going up the field, going quickly. Travion Henderson, I love him, but jump cutting is not our game. Mine Williams, what did he do? Punch through the hole. Cade Stover over the middle. Marvin Harrison down the field. Attack vertically. Ryan Day, in his head, being stubborn, let's attack horizontally. No, it's not working. Keep going. That's going back to that thing. Yeah, he gets in his way too much. And I think I'm fine with Ryan Day. The big thing is I think he needs to give up play calling duties. If it's Kevin Wilson, get somebody else, get another offensive coordinator, call Tom Herman up. I don't care. Get rid of play calling duties. That's just plain and simple to me.
I'm telling you now, if you hate wide receiver screens, just you wait till Kevin Wilson takes over, because that's what he did at Indiana.
His contract's up though, so I have a feeling maybe he goes somewhere else.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think he likes where he's at, and I don't think Day's going to move on from him. But he could bring somebody else in, or maybe give Brian Hartline a shot. I don't know. Not that we have any reason to know that Hartline can do that at all. But I think eventually he needs to see if he can marry those recruiting and wide receiver coaching skills to something else. But so all this disaster happens post game. So this is where I'm going to start beefing with Stroud big time. And I'm going to post game we get to. Day gets asked about the playoff, and here's what really riled me up. And I was laughing and stuff like you watching this. I'm like, run up the score, whatever. It feels bad. I'm a masochist in some ways. Pile it on me. Let's get this over with and move on. Day gets asked about the playoff and responds, and I kind of coach speak. Maybe his brain's turned off, whatever. But says like, oh yeah, I think we're one of the best 4 teams. I think we deserve a shot. That type of thing. No, my friend. You shut that shit down. You go, I don't care about the playoff. We just lost the biggest game of the year. I need to figure out how to keep this from happening again. Or you just say, we just lost the biggest game of the year. I'm not thinking about that. There's 2 right answers. He goes way off the reservation. Again, Cooper-esque, and acting like it doesn't really matter that we just lost. I don't think he thinks that way, that it doesn't matter, but I think he doesn't quite grasp it the way he has to. You have to be obsessive. Yeah. Like Urban Meyer and Jim Tressel were obsessive about beating this team. They built the program around beating this team. Everything they did was about beating this team. Because they know. Now, it's going to change a little bit, and that either maybe a good or a bad thing for us if Ryan Day's still around, because it doesn't come down like our hopes and dreams aren't pinned on beating them anymore. But as of this moment, and I know there's a chance we make the playoff. I don't think we will. I think USC is going to win. You don't win anything without beating that team. You don't win a damn thing without beating that team. And for all of you, and this is going to talk to the direwolf here a little bit, all of you who ever wanted, for whatever reason, I don't give a shit what the reason was, for this Michigan program to be good. I'm rooting for them to be good. For Direwolf, I'm going to give him some credit. At least it was selfish reasons for Ohio State. But for people who want the rivalry to be good, you having fun? You having fun right now? Are you having fun? Was that a fun time in the shoot? No.
I want them to be 0-12 every year.
And I said it many times to Casey about this. The better they are, the more likely they are to beat us. Period. Yep. End of story. I mean, that's just simple common sense.
Yeah.
And here they are. They're a really good program now. And I do think there's some reasons for it that maybe they can't sustain. We'll talk about that later. But they kicked our ass they kicked our teeth down our ass. We could brush our asshole and our teeth at the same time, the way they've kicked our ass the last 2 years. It's so frustrating to see that our fans were rooting for that in some ways. They were rooting. If you're rooting for a good Michigan, this is the result. Yeah. You're getting a good Michigan now. And this is where we're at. We're playing tight. The way they used to play tight. They would always make these mistakes. The botch snap when it's supposed to be a fake. The false starts. Oh, yeah. I forgot to hit Day's big plan. The biggest part of his plan, I think, and we saw it specifically on the first drive, was to go up tempo, which is something we don't do often. Hadn't done most of the year. First series, we're going up tempo, like really fast. We got a false start the second play. The 7th play, we could have had a false start on the center for snapping it because pretty much nobody moved except for Marvin Harrison, who CJ just chucks one up, and Marvin Harrison does what Marvin Harrison does and makes a fucking great play. Other than that, though, I mean, we look completely discombobulated because we didn't do it all damn year.
Yes, that's not it, but
yeah, you're going to do stuff.
Should.
Go ahead.
We have the talent to do that. And we have I think it worked efficiently when we didn't get false starts and when we had done it at times a couple drives in a row. it's worked. Like a lot of teams, like if you're more talented than the other team and you have speed, go up tempo. Don't let them get the substitutions. Go, go, go. Like like you said, it's points in mass, and you need to do that, especially against Michigan. Just bury them because they can't catch up. And to go into a little bit about Ryan Day, why I don't like the play caller being the head coach, kind of like Stefanski. I like them to be in the box, but another thing is it kind of gives the persona of the team to be centered around the offense. And why Urban Meyer and Jim Tressel worked so well is because they were tough. Like you got the defensive mentality from them, and Ryan Day's focus, especially recruiting wise, you can see it on the flashy players, defensive ends, wide receivers, and quarterbacks. Guess what killed us? Our back seven, our linebackers and our secondary are just not there because you have a running back, Steel Chambers, he wasn't there in the game basically. You have a running back playing linebacker. I don't care his heart. Thank you for playing linebacker, but the fact that you have that signals to you that you cannot recruit on the defensive side of the ball, and that needs to change because Urban Meyer did that, and that's why we had a lot of dominant teams under Urban Meyer. Why you can just suffocate teams and just let your defensive ends get at it. I think we have a lot of talent on the defensive line, but they can't get after it because they can just pass the ball and they don't have time to get there. It's a two-way street. And he's not doing that because he's just focusing on his offense because he's the head coach. He's the play caller. So he's going to focus on what he's in control of. And he's not helping the defensive side of the ball at all.
Well, I know how it is to play with somebody like that. Because my head coach back in the high school days was the offensive guy, and the team was centered around the offense. Like there was no doubt that the defense was the secondary thought, and we were going to try to win games with having the hype. We were in Rich Rod's offense right when it was beginning to become a thing. So we were one of the first spread teams. So we're running that, and that's like our identity. And you can feel, I mean, as a defensive player, you can feel that. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't feel right all the time. To complete my thought earlier, since I got sidetracked with getting pissed off about this whole Ryan Day philosophy about a lot of things, CJ Stroud then also follows up Day's comments by saying that this game doesn't define this team and this season. No, my friend.
What else does?
It does. It absolutely does.
The Western game
that defines you at Ohio State. There is one game. You can lose, like you said earlier, you can lose to Purdue, you can lose to Iowa, you can drop a game to Penn State. Nobody is going to be having these conversations. Nobody's going to be screaming to fire Ryan Day for one loss against Penn State. Guaranteed. Now, if it's like our third loss of the year, they might be. I've seen it happen for Jim Tressel 2 years after he won the national championship. People were calling for his head during a game, wanting Cooper back. But if you're gonna be a team that's gonna be wanting to win a national championship, the only game, and look at all these crap. I mean, the Big Ten was crap. Let's just call a spade a spade. The Big Ten was fucking crap this year. Yeah. None of those games matter because you or I could have coached them to a victory in most of those games easily. Maybe Penn State and Notre Dame notwithstanding. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you beat Maryland by 13 or 30. I don't care if you beat Indiana by 13 or 30. I don't care if you score 77 points against Toledo. I care if you lose to this goddamn team because you saw what they did too. They come and plant the goddamn flag in the middle of our field after now their third win in the last 12 years, their fourth win in the last 20, and they're planting their flag in the middle of your effing field. That's why you never lose to those.
My dad said if you would have been there, like
why you never lose to them. Go ahead.
If Day or if any players on the sideline, that's when Day says, okay, I'll take the suspension, boys. Go out there and fight them. Because, look, I'm fine with them doing that because, like, we got our ass ran off the field. Whatever. Now that should take some – Day's not good. I don't think he's going to use this for motivation for next year because that's just not his personality. I don't think he's going to do it. But anyways.
Oh, I would.
C.J. Stroud also said, I know a lot of people are going to look at me for my 2 years not having beaten Michigan and not having won a Big Ten championship. Well, damn right. We're going to think of you as the worst quarterback we've had in the last 10 years. All the other quarterbacks before you did that, and they never really lost to them like they did that. So, yeah, I'm going to think of you exactly because in the big games, you disappeared, my man. Like, you didn't win. The quarterback wins you the game, and you had your Heisman moment to do that, and you did. So you want to blame Ryan Day? Fine. But at the end of the day, the coin's got to fall on somebody, and the guy that's touching the ball every play, that's you.
You're the Heisman guy. You want the endorsement deals. You want the NILs. You want all that stuff.
Yeah. You're not a running back. You don't want to take the 10 yards that's sitting you right there in the face. You don't want to Guess who won the Heisman this year? Caleb Williams. Guess why? Because he uses his legs. Maybe you would have.
I not hope for Max Duggan. I'm just kidding. He's gonna win, but
If it's Max Duggan too, he runs a decent amount. Because guess what? You have to make plays, and that opens up your other teammates, and your stats will be better. Anyways, we've said that all year long. That's what's been the Achilles heel to our offense is his inability to run the ball. He's just not. He just can't. I don't think, and he doesn't want to. So double whammy on you. You suck.
I just don't think he's tough. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I don't think he's tough. He's not. Doesn't want to get hit. This whole thing with his not running, I don't know how much of it's Day, how much of it's him, how much of it was both, how much got ingrained, because that's another problem I have with Ryan Day. Where was Dallas Hayden on Saturday? Dude only ran for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns the previous week. And what happened immediately after that game? Day brings up the other running backs. This kid is, not that I have a man crush on Dallas Hayden, but every time he's been called upon this year, which has been several times due to all the injuries, he's come through. He touches the ball 2 times in that game. 2 times.
We're having people transfer. It's just a matter of how many transfer, because you have all those running backs coming back next year. I wouldn't be surprised if out of the 3, 2 of them transfer, because if I'm Ryan Williams, he could go to the draft, but I don't think he will because of the injuries. So I could see him transferring. Henderson's probably going to stay because he's the guy to people.
Yeah.
And then if I'm down, hey, I'm out, dude. You don't want to give me credit to when I get the credit because your other running backs couldn't do what I did behind the same shaky offensive line. I'm out.
Offensive line played great, I thought. They opened up running lanes and they protected CJ really well. CJ had all day to make stupid decisions during that game, and he did. So overall, though, obviously this is could be an inflection point in this rivalry and the program. We lost 2 in a row. Hasn't happened since 1999 and 2000. So it's been a long time, and 2 full coaches ago. I mean, you're the only coach, Ryan Day, that has a losing record over the last 20 years. Like, it's ridiculous. What are we going to do? What's the problem? How does this get addressed? Because clearly there is a problem. You don't lose 2 back-to-back games the manner in which they did, where they just get bullied by Michigan and Jim effing Harbaugh. And like I said, everything this year was pointing to it. Now next year we go to Ann Arbor, we go to Notre Dame, we have Penn State.
We go to Wisconsin
with Luke Fickell there now, by the way.
Yeah. There has to be.
You're breaking a new quarterback too.
Yes.
And 2 new tackles because they're both gone, and they're both going to be good NFL players. I mean, DeJuan's not a great run blocker.
Yes.
He can't get to the second level, but he's a great pass blocker. So is Paris Johnson. There's a very good chance we lose 3 games this year, I thought there's no chance we lose more than 1.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what we did. Next year, I think there's easily a chance we lose 3. Maybe not. If he can right the ship, and like you said, you have to give him time. I mean, he's 45-5. He's 11-1 this year. You can't fire that. You will never get another coach to come here, ever. You just can't do it. But something's turned here, and it seems like a cultural thing watching these guys all year. All these problems we've pointed out all year came to a culmination, and a lot of it is attitude. And I've seen some call a mercenaries attitude, where they're coming in to go to the NFL. And that happened with Cooper a lot too. A lot of people thought that's what happened with Cooper.
So 2 things. One, I've said this year, really since Day's been in there, has been screaming pussy to me. You hire these, therapists for each individual player, like you care about mental health. I get it, that's important. But at the end of the day, your football players that are about to be making millions of dollars, what the hell stress do you have in your life that is preventing you from going out there and beating people's asses on the field? You were playing at Ohio State, you were recruited to come here. It's just CJ Stroud not running the ball and him not being aggressive. It's just screaming soft. 2, the recruits. 2 recruits that were at the game on Saturday, both from Ohio, committed to Michigan the next day. That's fine. We're not going to get everyone, but both of them went on the record to say that when they're at the game, they were talking to other people from their area. They were both, I think both of them were, one of them was offensive lineman, the other one wasn't. They said that the Ohio State recruiting towards these Ohio people that they were talking to has been that they're keeping the Ohio offers last because they are viewing them as the surefire bets. I get what Ryan Day's thinking, but who most understands this rivalry? the people that live in this freaking state. This rivalry was built on players from these states. Desmond Howard from Cleveland, Fremont,
Fremont Ross, yeah.
the safety,
Charles
Woodson. You have players that were from these blue blood states. What are you doing? And you're getting these recruits from all these other areas of the country. I get it. You need the skill, but they don't understand the rivalry. They're coming here because they're expecting to get to the next level. That's part of the mentality. And on what needs to change, you need to start teaching these guys how to play, not face guarding the ball. If the talent is one thing, they can face guard it if they're talented, but they are not talented. And so you need to get these position coaches out of there. You need to get some new position coaches in there because we have not developed safeties and cornerbacks quite well the past few years. And we've got the recruits. They've got 4 or 5 stars back there. But you need to start developing these boys because that's where our defense has been great the past, decade, is when we have a really good freaking secondary to lock down the air, and then our defensive line can get after it. Something's got to change here, and he's need to start focusing on really position coaches, I think.
Yeah. And the worry, so, Casey would get upset with us during the year. And a lot of people think this way about like the people who get negative when we win 54-10 against Iowa, or 43 or 44, win by 13 at Penn State.
Yeah.
And it turns out we were right. Like everything we were negative about is like because we're looking forward. We're all projecting it forward to the Michigan and the playoffs, to the biggest games of the year, and saying like, this stuff can't happen, or we're going to lose these games, and stuff still happens, and they lose. And a big part of it is now, the born on third base comment from Harbaugh. And if you think about what Ohio State fans love, we talk about how we broke the Miami Hurricanes program. We didn't break their program, all right? Larry Coker was a player's coach who took over an ultra-talented team, maybe the most talented team in the history of the sport, from Butch Davis, who was a hard ass like Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer and Butch Davis, Larry Coker and Ryan Day. Larry Coker wins the national championship his first year, gets back there his second year, loses to Ohio State. Then they progressively get worse and worse and worse because it wasn't his guy. It wasn't his coached up guys. He didn't have these killers that he had coached up. He was still recruiting well, not as well as Butch Davis though. And I keep hearing people say that they recruits as well as the Urban. He recruits 2 positions better. Well, and it's not even him. It's he recruits the quarterback really well. Brian Hartline was already on the staff with Urban. He's the best recruiter on the team, period. On the coaching staff, period. End of story. Gets whatever receiver he wants. The next best recruiter is Larry Johnson, also there from Urban. Nothing to do with Day. It's because they both put dudes in the NFL high. They put high draft picks in the NFL. Those are the only positions we're really recruiting at a higher level than everybody else, or than Urban. Everywhere else, Urban was better. Everywhere else, he got dudes from out of state that were killers also that he could coach this rivalry into them. I haven't seen Day be able to coach guys from out of state. Like you said, they haven't been able to coach the rivalry into them, coach the mentality that takes. I always hated the choke a guy over checkers comments that used to get made. That Urban once said that I look for a guy that chokes a guy over, that's willing to choke a guy over a game of checkers. And then like every recruit I ever saw, everybody's like, oh yeah, he's like the guy that likes to choke him out of a game over checkers. And I'm like, God, that's so stupid. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. You don't know that. But clearly we don't have those guys right now. Clearly we do not. Ronnie Hickman didn't want to choke anybody when he stood there at the line. And by the way, he declared for the draft before the game and walked with the seniors. His last game there, he's not laying it out on the line. CJ Stroud's never wanted to lay it out on the line. He never wants to run the ball. He doesn't want to get hit. You got the guys that they're not that high. Just like you said, Justin Fields, JT Barrett, Braxton Miller, even going back, those guys wanted to win no matter what they had to do to make it happen. We don't have that going on, and that's a cultural thing. And so we need a cultural shakeup. Now, do you think they can do that?
I don't know, man. I'm at the point where I don't know. Day doesn't seem like that. Day just seems like somebody that wants to fit in the norm, fit in the wave, let guys do their thing, and doesn't want to disrupt the balance. That's where I'm at with him. Maybe he gets a talking to by some board of trustees and some people, some angry donors, and gets a fire lit in a certain place. But yeah, I'm not seeing that from him. But whatever. He gets the talent, and maybe he can turn things around, because I think talent wins games, but at the same time, coaches win championships because you can coach those guys through the tough times.
Right. The one excuse I kind of give him for the rivalry, right, is right now, this has been brought up on my message board, and it's a really good point, I think. Michigan and Harbaugh, when he was at his best with Stanford, it wasn't the first few years. He went like 3-8 his first year or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's when he started getting a bunch of underclassmen that he kept around as seniors and had a bunch of 20, 21, 22, 23-year-olds starting for him.
Yep.
They got the COVID year. So everybody's kind of got a little extra seasoning on their guys if they want them around. And a lot of them are still around. Now, they lost a lot of talent, but they had 13 guys that were seniors or fifth-year seniors or graduate transfers starting for them in that game. We had like 5. They're bringing grown men into this game, and it helps them play this grown man bully ball. And that advantage is going to go away as now the COVID stuff's wearing off. The extra years are pretty much gone for everybody except for maybe the freshman class that year.
Yeah.
Maybe the sophomore class, but there will be fewer and fewer of them there. So maybe, and he has not recruited well. Like if you go by recruiting rankings, he says it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you can get 13 or 15 starters out there that are, seniors or 50 or seniors. But it does matter when you don't have the depth and you can't. They have depth at running back though. Then they have 4- and 5-star guys. McCarthy's a 5-star quarterback. Edwards was a high 4-star running back. By the way, we chose Travion and Pryor, mainly Pryor, I guess, over Donovan Edwards. Take that as who just ran for 216 yards, 2 touchdowns against us. But so that could turn the tide a little bit when they're going to lose. They're going to be replacing some guys, but they should also be really good next year because they return a ton of their offensive skill. I'm not sold on McCarthy at all from that game. Like I said, most of the big plays he made were plays a lot of guys could have made.
Yep. I'm about done with it because I keep getting pissed off the more and more I relive this.
So we'll see what happens. If you obviously, we're not going to do a CFP rankings reaction to this week because it should be pretty set in stone.
Yeah.
Top 5 there's 5 teams that can make the playoffs. 3 of them I think are set in stone: Georgia, Michigan, TCU. I don't care what happens in their games. I don't care if they lose by 40, all of them. They all should be in still. And then USC can avenge its loss to Utah. And if they do, and I think they will, then we'll be out. If not, then we'll be in and playing Georgia in the first round, barring some sort of weird upset. It could be a rematch.
Yippee!
It could be a rematch with Michigan, which would be very interesting. And they would have a very quick turnaround to figure out how to fix the mess. Maybe it works out for them. Maybe being away from Ohio Stadium, away from everybody, maybe the adversity turns this team around. I don't see it though, but I'm hoping. And
we need good weather. We need to be in a dome. That's maybe what it is, Matt. Maybe we just need to be in a dome. Maybe we just need to get rid of Ohio Stadium and build a dome, like I've been saying.
Hey, I will say you were there. Ohio State fans get tight in these tight games, and players can feel that for sure. Everybody can feel that.
But when you're doing nothing on the field, what the hell are the fans going to root for?
I agree with you. I'm just saying it happens.
Yeah, no, it happens.
But I mean, I hope Day's the guy because we're pretty much going to be stuck with him. Like, I really hope he figures it out. I hope this was maybe last year didn't quite sink in. Mm-hmm. Maybe thought it was a fluke, and that he saw the talent, and he saw he probably saw some plays we missed here and there, and we make that play, we win that game. I'm not worried about it. We were on the right track. Clearly, you're not. So now you're going to figure it out. And I'm not going to blame Knowles too much. Even the DB coaches and stuff, it's their first year. The biggest thing is installing the defense more than even coaching up the fundamentals. You got to get the defense installed. So maybe they spent too much time on that. I don't know. I'm willing to give him more than a year before I jump down his throat. I did the same thing with Kerry Holmes, and I was wrong though. So who knows? But yeah, we'll do a CFP thing. We may do a gambling podcast later on in the week since it's just a few games to talk about. But none of them are that interesting, to be honest with you, besides the USC-Utah game. That's the only one that matters in any way, shape, or form. But we'll see where Ohio State ends up. We'll see what bowl game they end up in. We'll see who plays. Maybe it'll be exciting. I think it's exciting to see new guys play. So maybe it'll put a better taste in our mouth going into next year, kind of like the Utah game did. Utah game was good and bad. But that will do it for this week. Everybody, go hug your kids. Remind yourself that there is more to life than the Ohio State-Michigan game, even though it doesn't seem like it at the time. And we'll see you guys next time. We'll see you guys around bowl season later on. Take it easy. I'm out.
Hey guys! Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world.